how different the youth is of today and how courageous they are and how intelligent they are, right?
આનો જવાબ તો છે નહીં, આનો સોલ્યુશન પણ અમારી પાસે છે નહીં, પણ અમારી પાસે એક મીડિયમ છે ફિલ્મ, કે જેના થકી આ જે સવાલ અમારા મગજમાં થયો છે એ અમે આખી સોસાયટીના મગજમાં કરી શકીએ આ સવાલ ઊભો.
In the same way, if Maaran can put one dent and then the others can come and penetrate, superb, our job is done. Now that success is mine. So, like Lalo's maker Ankit Shakya says that this 100 crore is not my 100 crore.
Yeah.
This is 100 crore of the 10 years of the industry.
Right.
And we all take credit of it. I have my part in 100 crores of Lalo. Everyone has got their part in 100 crores of Lalo. So this is what we are doing, and this is what we are going. This is where we are going ahead.
When we talk about Gujarati cinema, I think Filme Shilmy has been amongst the rare platforms in the UK that has constantly spoken about films that have really broken the glass ceiling or latest releases. And one such film that has not only really broken the glass ceiling, but it's also won the National Film Award, which is, and very rightly deserving so as well, and that is Maaran. And I'm so delighted to be joined by the filmmaker Abhishek Jain, Yash Soni, the main lead, who was absolutely terrifying in the film. And we also have later on joining us is Deeksha Joshi, who plays the female lead as well. So a big warm welcome, Abhishek and Yash, and hopefully when she joins at a later stage in the conversation. So thank you so much, both of you, for joining.
Thank you, Anuj.
Thank you so much.
Right.
You're always so kind and supportive, Anuj.
No, honestly, the pleasure's mine, and it's so good to see Gujarati cinema just, I guess, gain momentum and do so well. I mean, look, Abhishek, I think Maaran is very timely because I think this year alone we've seen films that have um spotlighted women, right? For example, fighting crime. You've had your Mardani 3. You've had so many other films that have come. You had Dal Dal on Prime Video. So many other series and films that have come. Raak recently on Prime Video as well was there. Obsession, which really took over the pop culture space, which talks about uh mental health and how being very mentally damaged and emotionally damaged and conditioning can really contribute towards behaviors. Um, so it's really timely that Maaran has come out. But obviously, this film has been with you for a few years. I would love to know what was the moment where you decided that you wanted to really venture into the darker space of cinema, I think, with this one.
I wouldn't really call it venturing into the darkest space in cinema. There is so much more gore and dark out there. But our intention was to venture into something which can actually bring some pride to Gujarati cinema, something that the audiences, especially the younger generation today, popularly or unpopularly known as the Gen Zs, would relate with, you know. So if I just take you back to 2012, and Anuj, you know that there was a certain kind of audience, and we got that audience captivated with Gujarati cinema. So 12 years, 14 years down the line, it is time for reinvention as an industry. So the idea was to cater to those people who are watching international content across the globe, especially Gujaratis watching Malayalam cinema, South Indian cinema, and international or Korean, whatever. How about delivering something to them in their own language and just, knowing how they would react?
So that's amazing. But I think, interestingly, Maaran, even though it is very distinct from the other films that you have made, but I feel like youth the lens of the youth of today, ambition, stories sort of stretching amongst different social stratas. I thought this is also very much rampant in Maaran as well. So even though the tonality is different and the social conversation is different, I feel like it's very much an Abhishek Jain world of cinema that we've kind of, sort of evolved seeing from your first film. Um, so I guess for you, I would love to understand the research perhaps gone into providing and creating this universe, and as disturbing as it is for us to watch the film, it must have been very disturbing for you as a filmmaker in terms of researching and discovering a lot of these really ghastly things that happen to women and to men as well in today's day and age.
Yeah, I mean, purely catering to absolute fiction is a different case, and trying to bring a non-fiction into fiction is a completely different task, especially when you have content like this, where you are dealing with human trafficking and women captivation, kidnapping, killing. All this is not easy when you read. And as a compassionate and empathetic person, when you read all of these, you feel so unsettled, and even more the urge to go out and tell this to the audiences. But as far as getting disturbed is concerned, see, after a point, all of this is work of research that comes to us and we try to adapt it to the script. But think about the actors who are now going to play this. For them, for Yash, or say for Deeksha and the other characters, other actors, it I believe it was extremely, extremely strenuous. It was immensely challenging for them because one, you read, like a director would just read, but an actor would want to, put his skin into it. And then you have to become that menacing guy. And look at this innocent boy in our conversation. Imagine him adapting that menacing nature. It's not easy. People call acting is just about being on the camera. No, he has lived that life. So, Yash, I would want you to answer this question about how did you prepare and or how do you react to the research?
थैंक यू सो मच अभिषेक सर. बट जैसे वो बोल रहे हैं ना कि एक्टर्स उस स्क्रीन में जाता है, एक्टर्स ही प्रोवाइडेड दैट एनवायरनमेंट, ही प्रोवाइडेड ऑल द मटेरियल टू गेट इनटू द स्किन ऑफ रतन. ही ही हैड सो, मतलब जब मैं ऑन बोर्ड आया इस फिल्म के लिए, तब उनके पास जो रिसर्च मटेरियल था, जिस तरह की डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज, जिस तरह की फिल्म्स, जिस तरह के आर्टिकल्स, वो इस वर्ल्ड से ना मुझे काफी ज्यादा अच्छे से वाकिफ कर रहे थे. तो वो शायद वो शुरुआत बहुत अच्छे से करवाई थी उन्होंने. एंड ही लव्स हिज एक्टर्स. सो जब भी एक्टर परफॉर्म कर रहा है, जब भी एक्टर एक सीन परफॉर्म कर रहा है, तब उनके लिए वही है कि हम सबकी वजह से रीटेक नहीं होना चाहिए. मतलब टेक्निकल क्रू, एक भी दूसरे कोई भी डिपार्टमेंट की वजह से रीटेक नहीं होना चाहिए. अगर एक्टर्स रीटेक मांग रहे हैं तो कोई बात नहीं, एक्टर्स 15 रीटेक मांग रहे हैं, 20 रीटेक मांग रहे हैं, दैट इज टोटली फाइन विथ हिम. पर और किसी भी डिपार्टमेंट की वजह से एक्टर्स को फिर से करना पड़े वो सीन, वो वो इतने पैम्पर करके एक्टर्स को रखता है. और ऑफ कोर्स वो जो एक्टिंग वर्कशॉप थी इस कैरेक्टर को समझने के लिए, इसकी साइकी जानने के लिए, वो जो बॉडी लैंग्वेज पे हमने काम किया था, हमारे एक्टिंग कोच थे प्रतीक राठौड़ एंड अभिषेक सर ऑल्सो. तो वो काफी इंटरेस्टिंग प्रोसेस था फॉर मी एज एन एक्टर ऑल्सो. क्योंकि मेरी जब तक अभी तक की जितनी भी प्रोसेस थी मारन फिल्म तक की, वो सारी प्रोसेस इन्होंने तोड़ दी थी. वो एक भी प्रोसेस इस फिल्म के लिए काम इस वजह से भी नहीं लग रही थी क्योंकि ये वर्ल्ड ही ऐसा था जिस वर्ल्ड में मैंने आज तक एज एन एक्टर काम नहीं किया हुआ है. बट ही हेल्प मी फाइंडिंग आउट दोस प्रोसेस, जो तैयारियां हमने की थी, जिस तरह से हमने की थी. So yeah, it was challenging, but it was very much uh, enjoyable. I loved the character Ratan as an actor. So yeah, it challenged me as an actor also. जो अब तक की 10 साल की जो प्रिपरेशन थी जिस तरह की, वो सब तोड़ के एक नया पर्सपेक्टिव एक्टर तरीके से मुझे दिया है उस कैरेक्टर ने.
Hmm. It's interesting, actually, and thank you for that very beautiful response about the prep that went into it and all of that. I think that was really beautiful. Um, but I think what really fascinates me, Yash, like
Mhm.
Abhishek said, you look very innocent, and I think a lot of the characters that you have played have been, they're quite naive, right? Like they're quite kind of, matlab, like bhalo puchvu. That's like the sort of that's like the sort of word I can use in Gujarati to describe them, right? Like they're kind of unassuming, right? And they kind of get caught up in this web of events and chain of events that happen. But also simultaneously, I feel that a lot of the characters you have played have very much centered around women. Whether we take Fakt Mahilao Maate, even recently did
Hmm.
Chanya Toli also. Women are pretty much at the epicenter of your stories, where you're also seen as someone who is kind of fighting, with them for their rights, not for them, but with them, and also being someone who's been a big support of them. But here, it's completely different. So again, you've got women at the forefront of the story, but you're the one who is the perpetrator. How
Right.
was that shift in terms of for you as an actor, in that psychology as well, for your having to just go completely 360 to what you've already done in your films?
Uh, Very interesting question. So मेरे लिए ना फर्स्ट comes is my story, is my script. वो फिल्म पहले आती है। उस फिल्म में क्या बात हो रही है, उस फिल्म में क्या मैसेज हो रहा है, उस फिल्म में किस तरह से बात हो रही है, जो बात कहना चाहते हैं मेरे राइटर, वो किस तरह से मेरे डायरेक्टर कह रहे हैं, वो सब कुछ पहले आता है, बाद में आता है मेरा कैरेक्टर। तो जब मेरे कैरेक्टर पे बात आती है, तब जो भी फ़िल्म में बात कह रहा है, जो भी हमारा ग्रेटर मोटिव है, जो मेन बात हम कर रहे हैं, उसको किस तरह से मैं कैटर कर रहा हूँ एज़ एन एक्टर, वो फिर समझने की बात आती है। तो जब मेरे लिए फर्स्ट स्टेप क्लियर हो गया होता है कि मेरी फ़िल्म ये बात कहना चाहती है, ये इसका सोल है इस फ़िल्म का, तब मेरे लिए उस कैरेक्टर को उतना इंटरेस्टिंग बनाना और उतनी उस कैरेक्टर को उस तरह से परफ़ॉर्म करना कि वो फ़िल्म के सोल को कैटर करे, वो मेरे लिए बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है। एंड जिस फ़िल्म की हम बात कर रहे हैं मारन, तो मारन में इन द एंड व्हेन यू रियलाइज़ कि यार ये पूरे समाज की गलती थी। ये सिर्फ़ बिरवा की गलती नहीं है। हमें जिस जिस बिरवा पे उसकी चॉइस पे ऐसा डाउट हो रहा है कि यार वो क्यों ऐसा कर रही है? क्यों नहीं निकल जाती? अगर वो निकल जा रही है तो एज़ एन ऑडियंस मुझे अच्छा फ़ील होगा। पर वो जब निकल जाएगी, जब वो वापस अपने घर जाएगी, तब उसके साथ क्या होगा? उससे ज़्यादा कम्फ़र्ट उसे इस कैरेक्टर के साथ लग रहा है, जो कि बिल्कुल भी उसके लिए अच्छा नहीं है। तो वो चीज़ कैटर करने के लिए वो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात हो जाती है। और ऑफ़ कोर्स वो जो शिफ्ट था मेरा, तब तक ऐसा था कि मैं जो भी बात कर रहा था, जितनी मैंने फीमेल ओरिएंटेड फ़िल्म्स की हुई है, जैसे कि फ़क्त महिलाओं माटे हो, फ़क्त पुरुषों माटे हो, चनिया टोली हो, वो सब में मैं उनके साथ रह के बात कर रहा था। ये पहली फ़िल्म थी मेरी कि जहाँ पे उनके ऑपोज़िट रह के उनके बारे में मैं बात कर रहा था। तो इंटरेस्टिंग था यार ये भी प्रोसेस बहुत अच्छी थी मेरे लिए।
Hmm. No, it was really, really fascinating. But I think also from the technical aspects as well, Abhishek, I feel like Abhishek, you've always been someone who's had a very keen eye for international cinema. And I think that also comes across in the films that you have made. And also, by the way, a big welcome to Deeksha, who is just joining us as well. But no, so I think, yeah, so as I was saying, it's really lovely to sort of see the way you've adapted your love and passion for international cinema in this one. Like there's certain sequences which, the way the slow-mos are done and the way the cinematography is done, the color palette as well. It's very there's neon sort of influence, but then it also feels very dim. There's like this very dim and sort of grim nature that's there in your films, in this one in particular as well. Uh, I would love to know what was a film or cinematic reference point for you, I think, throughout the process of making Maaran in particular?
So, honestly, Anuj, no one's asked me this question, and I've been dying to speak this out, but I was waiting for someone to ask this question. I made my last theatrical Gujarati film way back in 2014. Okay. We are sitting in 2026. Imagine what I would have been doing in these 12 years.
True.
All of it that was there inside because of the film school that I've been through, the formal training, and all the filmmakers that I've admired so much while in the film school and the years, over the years of my career in films, I have brought all of them on the chef's table just to cook something called Maran. So you will find Wonkar Wai, who's like the first filmmaker who comes to my mind. Even if you like ask me, even on my deathbed, I will say Wonkar Wai. There is Kieslowski, obviously, because he's one of my favorites from the visual standpoint. And there are bits of Tarantino from the dark alley, you know. So if I get into the dark alley and I have to find Tarantino's address, that's where you will find Maaran. So I think over the years, whatever I've learned, I was waiting for the time to come where I can pour all of it. Not that I've not done in my earlier films, but you also mature, you evolve, you try to understand those filmmakers. It's not that I've seen these filmmakers only once or their films only once. I've been academically watching them at every different stage of my life. And at every different stage, I kind of interpret their work in a different way. So this has been the inspiration.
It's it's so beautiful. And you know what? This question, 12 years you've been away from the director's seat, and you've risked quite a lot, I think, for Gujarati cinema, Abhishek. And I want to talk about this because I think it needs to be addressed here because you produced Wrong Side Raju, which was obviously again a film which was more on the darker spectrum, but I think it was still had a bit of catharsis. There was still a comedic element to it, whereas this one was a complete sledgehammer going at your head. Um, so I think for you, these 12 years, you also endeavored to introduce the first proper Gujarati streaming platform, which was OHO as well. And you did very well at that. I must congratulate you on that. You've taken risks. Um, some have paid off. Some, unfortunately, people were not reciprocating it as much, if I may say so. Um, it must hurt though. It must make you feel like, oh, why? Because I know you're very passionate about your films, and we've had conversations off the record as well about how much you love cinema and how much you're passionate about giving a different imagery to Gujarati cinema because it's always the comedies which you always seem to work, which is not a bad thing. But there is that whole aspect. So now that you've won the National Film Award, do you kind of feel like, okay, मेहनत थोड़ी सी अब सफल हो गई अब, you know?
No, Anuj, I don't think I will ever regret whatever happened to me in the past. OHO's failure or the films that I mounted but never got greenlit, or Anuj, how I am. We have met and spent enough time together
Of
to
course.
understand that, right? But I think with the national award, more than anything from the outside, uh, internally it has given me a lot of validation and helped me come out of self-doubt, helped me come out of sometimes you become very complacent also, and you also start giving yourself some amount of self-inflicting pain. Not with that intensity, but so I think all of that has been now wrapped and trashed somewhere until it comes out again, maybe, and maybe it won't come out ever, but it really helped. So I wouldn't say that, okay, now finally I can have a fresh breath of air or nothing like that. Something needed people's attention. We have worked immensely hard. I'm answerable to my cast and crew who have been very patient with me. And the answer was a national award. That's about it. Move on to next. Forget about whatever has happened in the past. And let's put head down and work towards the next one.
And I think this very spirit is exactly why Abhishek Jain's cinema is so visually and so socially rich as well, because you have that progressive mindset of just getting on with it, not mulling over the past. And there's been times where, and I just love that about you. You're always so hopeful and you're always so, forward thinking. And I genuinely do really admire that about you, Abhishek. So well done. And a very, very
Thank
well
you.
deserved National Film Award for sure.
Thank you.
Deeksha, a warm welcome to you. It's really great to see you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I just came back from shoot.
That's all right.
And yeah.
No, no, no. It's great to see you. I mean, as they say, "Dera hai durust hai," and you were the main lead of the film, so as well. So it was nice to kind of have you and Yash together in the same frame. Obviously, thankfully in a more positive way today. So, so Deeksha, look, I was just telling Yash that it was interesting that he's been a part of films which have often been, a catalyst towards social change for women. He's been there as part
Yeah.
with the women in their crusade. You've done films as well in your career. Where like Jayeshbhai Jordaar, for example, I loved your role in that because I thought it was, it was one of those roles where, it wasn't about the screen time, but it was just about the fact that she was someone who was silently fighting, But I think here with your character, there's like a build-up of that pain and grief and all these pent-up emotions which suddenly has like an outburst. I would love to know what was your approach as an actor in dealing with such brooding emotions for this film, and how disturbing and emotionally exhausting was it to be in this world?
So of course, it is emotionally exhausting when we're exploring characters that are so complex. Because they're not like healed people, right? So and the situation in which she is, in which Birwa is very complex. Other than that, she herself is very complex. She's probably always been a little complex. So, to kind of understand her, to make friends with her was very interesting. And I like people who are a little off. so, so I liked Birwa therefore. But then, when we had such scenes which were very physically and emotionally exhausting, after which I needed a breather. Like, that's when my co-actors, like there was Yash, there was Shuhad, then Abhishek sir, they were all there to kind of help me come back to myself. So, because I feel that's very important, de-rolling is equally important. So, after every such shot, we would have like these moments where they just be there around me. They wouldn't force anything on me, and they just be there. And their presence would kind of make me feel very safe, and it would allow me to come back to myself. So, I think having a safe space is very important while exploring such characters and while exploring such scenes. And that's why I consider myself very lucky in the process of Maaran. We were like all the time. It was a very safe cocoon that was there. So
Right, no, that makes a lot of space. And I think it's important to have that safe space, like you said, because the
mm,
characters that you are exploring, both of you, they are very complex and they are very dark in the sense of it's about conditioning. And I think the scene that really concerned me actually, and what made me really sad was the cinema and bathroom scene where obviously, she's getting harassed because there was obviously like a sexual video that was online available. And because people had seen that, men had seen that, so they were chasing her in the cinema, and she sees her mother, and her mother refuses to accept her. Um, this unfortunately is sometimes a sad reality, which actually is what pushes people who are victims and survivors away into more dangerous situations. How does one necessarily pinpoint that vulnerability as an actor? Like, because you have to obviously use your imagination in a lot of these roles, but
mm.
I guess as actors, you have to also kind of find a moment in life which kind of evokes that. And I'm going to ask Yash the same question because for him, it must have been also very tough because I'm hoping that he's not like that in real life. So for him to, so for him to also, kind of pinpoint that emotion that's almost irrigid of what he's doing, I would love to know that. But yes, Diksha will begin with you and then Yash will come to you. Mm.
Uh, okay, so from what I understood, you're probably asking how
The nearest
emotionally.
emotion one has to pinpoint for
Yeah,
these characters,
yeah,
because
yeah,
obviously you've not been in that situation before, and
yeah.
hopefully never. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think somewhere being a woman helps because it was really something that I could relate with. There's been instances in life where I have invalidated my own self, or someone else has invalidated what I felt. So I think that also kind of helped, and we keep reading. Like we did a lot of research, right? So we kept reading about. Um, a lot of girls from these families who would not be accepted, and we know this as a fact that there is this stigma in society. There is this gaze that never leaves you after you've been, in a certain so-called position. That shame, that gaze, that stigma, it kind of is something that I wanted to work on since a long time. And I was also writing something on it. And it's very mistake how this should come to me, but um, like I keep writing poems and everything. So I was writing some of these poems on stigma, on how important it is to let yourself free and not be judged by the gaze that that's constantly bothering you. So I kind of feel that that helped me in that particular scene. Um, Also, I feel that we live in a society where we're constantly reminded of the fact that we're women, you know. So, so that again, there is some amount of responsibility that comes along mm, with the fact that I'm a woman. Um, like there is a character certificate that's attached with me.
Right.
So, so So
Yeah,
that is that is pretty interesting because that's not how we view men. Like like for men, it's a cool thing. I mean, but for women, it's something to be ashamed of.
yeah.
So
As in basically
yeah,
what you're trying to say, I think, is that society is quick to point fingers first at the woman and
yeah,
not the man. And there is that
not
double
the
standard
man.
that exists.
And that's how generally, yeah, that's how the society generally functions and sees women. And I kind of feel that automatically, I think if any girl would have been in my position, if it would have been any other actor, she would also have gotten that sur of the scene, because I think it's something that every girl might have gone through, at some point or the other in her life, or she might have seen her mother or her sister or somebody around her go through that stigma, that gaze.
Right. Yeah,
So
no, absolutely. No, it's very, very true. I think I'm gonna also come back to you, Yash, because like how I mentioned about Deeksha having to tap into an emotion which is somewhat uh resembles the situation that she's in on screen. For you as a villain of this film, and I'm gonna call him a villain because these are villains. These are not anti-heroes, these are absolute villains, regardless of what the conditioning is. Because the moment we call them anti-hero, that gives them some sort of grace, and we cannot do that, in my opinion. So Yash, for you, what was the emotions that you had to tap into as an actor? I know you mentioned the whole workshops and the preparation earlier in your response, but I would love to know a bit deeper about your preparation process in terms of emotionally to bring out the darkness and this unpredictable nature of Ratan as well.
सो रतन का जो कैरेक्टर है मेरे लिए उसका जो माइंडसेट है ना वो बहुत एक्सट्रीम पे है। और एज अ पर्सन मैं कभी वहां जाना भी नहीं चाहूंगा एंड मैं कभी एक्सप्लोर नहीं करना चाहूंगा। बट दैट्स द ब्यूटी ऑफ बीइंग एन एक्टर, राइट? सो यू आप ऐसी जगह पे एक एक्टर के तराजू से जा सकते हो जहाँ पे आप डेली लाइफ में या रियल लाइफ में एज अ पर्सन आप कभी भी नहीं जाना चाहोगे। एंड वो ही मेरे लिए इस कैरेक्टर को चूज करने के लिए भी सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट था कि जिस जगह से ये सोच रहा है, जहाँ पे ये इसका माइंडसेट ऑलरेडी पहुंचा हुआ है, वो बहुत एक्सट्रीम पे है। और इमोशंस के वाइज बात करूँ तो जब तक मैं आपका सवाल समझाऊं, मैंने ये कैरेक्टर ऐसा था कि आप अपनी लाइफ में से किसी एक्सपीरियंस के इमोशंस को आप नहीं कनेक्ट कर पाओगे, बिकॉज इसका एक्सपीरियंस ही बहुत अलग है इस कैरेक्टर का, अपनी लाइफ के साथ, अपनी बैक स्टोरी के साथ, जहां से ये आया है, जिस तरह से ये जी रहा है, जिस तरह से ये लड़कियों को देख रहा है, वो बहुत अलग है। तो आप अपनी लाइफ से तो नहीं ही कभी रिलेट भी कर पाओगे, ना ही आप ऐसे कोई इमोशंस टैप कर पाओगे जो आपने कहीं ना कहीं सिमिलर इमोशंस देखे हुए हैं अपनी लाइफ में या फील किए हुए हैं। एंड नाउ यू आर गोइंग टू replicate those emotions, or I wouldn't say replicate, or you are trying to touch those emotions. So what worked the best for me is the script, कि स्क्रिप्ट में जिस तरह से डिटेल्ड बातें, जिस तरह से राइटर और डायरेक्टर ने जो डेप्थ पे इस इमोशंस को टच किया हुआ है, जैसे कि कैप्टिवेशन पे बहुत सारी फिल्म्स बनी हुई है, राइट। एक एस्केप पे बहुत सारी फिल्म बनी हुई है, कैप्टिवेटर पे बहुत सारी फिल्म बनी हुई है, और उसके बहुत सारे अप्रोच भी है इस पर्टिकुलर जॉनरा, इस पर्टिकुलर फिल्म को बनाने के। पुलिस का एक अप्रोच है, कैप्टिवेटर का एक अप्रोच है, जो कैप्टिवेशन में है उस लड़की का एक अप्रोच है, समाज का एक अप्रोच है। लेकिन आई फील इस फिल्म में द बेस्ट अप्रोच जो हो सकता था वो लिया हुआ है, कि किस तरह से समाज ने उसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया और फिर उसे वहां पे रहना पड़ा। तो आई फील वो जो हर एक अप्रोच का जो बेस्ट अप्रोच होता है ना, वो अप्रोच इस फिल्म में लिया गया था, और वो ही इमोशनल डेप्थ मेरे लिए बहुत ज्यादा काम कर रही थी। कि मेरा सबसे बड़ा वेपन है सोसाइटी। मेरी जो भी एक्शंस है वो सोसाइटी के रिएक्शन पे है। अगर सोसाइटी ने बिरवा को एक्सेप्ट कर लिया होता, अगर सोसाइटी ने बिरवा को कंफर्टेबल फील करवा लिया होता, या किसी भी लड़की को, जो मैंने पहले लड़कियों को उठाया हुआ है, जिस लड़कियों को मैंने पहले इस तरह की कंडीशन में रख के उनको कहीं पे भी डाला हुआ है, अगर समाज ने उनको या सोसाइटी ने उनको एक्सेप्ट कर लिया होता, अगर उनका दर्द नहीं खुरेदा हुआ होता, तो मेरे लिए कुछ भी वर्क नहीं कर रहा था मेरे कैरेक्टर के लिए। तो मेरा सबसे बड़ा वेपन था सोसाइटी, और वो सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग बात थी मेरे कैरेक्टर की। तो उस हिसाब से ना काफी सारे ऐसे इमोशंस थे, काफी सारे ऐसे, एक जो किंग वाला एटीट्यूड था ना, कैन द किंग, नो बडी इज गोइंग टू टच मी, वो
Mm.
इस जगह से आया था। वो ना पुलिस मुझे टच कर पाएगी, ना इसकी फैमिली मुझे टच कर पाएगी। मेरे मेरा एटीट्यूड जो है मेरे कैरेक्टर का, वो उतना ऊपर है, वो खुद को इतना ऊपर समझ रहा है कि वो खुद जाके उसकी बहन से मिल के उसके घर पे बात कर रहा है, और उसे डर नहीं है।
Yeah.
क्यों डर नहीं है? बिकॉज ही नोज सोसाइटी कभी भी बिरवा को एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगी, एंड दैट इज माई बिगेस्ट वेपन। तो एक राजा जैसी फीलिंग आती थी यार इस कैरेक्टर में तो। एंड ऑफ कोर्स वो जो डार्केस्ट इमोशंस, डार्केस्ट फीलिंग्स जो थी, वो टैप करने में भी आई यूज टू एंजॉय दोस फीलिंग्स एज एज एन एक्टर, एज एज रतन। क्योंकि मुझे किसी भी चीज का डर ही नहीं है, जब सोसाइटी ही बिरवा के अगेंस्ट है, तो आई डोंट हैव टू वरी अबाउट एनीथिंग एल्स। तो ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज थी फिल्म की।
भाई ये जो कैरेक्टर है ना वो रावण से कई ज्यादा कई गुजरा है, like you know he's literally like at least Ravan had some redemption even towards the end as he
एब्सोल्युटली,
died.
एब्सोल्युटली।
And the fact that this guy had no redemption, no catharsis, I think that is what terrifies me. The question though that I have, is essentially about the landscape of Gujarati cinema. I mean, you know, I said this to Abhishek earlier as well in the beginning of our interview, that for me this is the boldest and bravest Gujarati film yet, because in the sense that नॉर्मल चीजें जो हमारे साथ होती है आम जिंदगी में, whether that's relationships, sexual relationships, condoms, all these things, right, that are so normal in our day-to-day lives, they've often been brushed under the carpet. I mean, the social messaging about this, about the safeguarding of youth, of girls, of women, that is also again has been brushed under the carpet so many times when it comes to Gujarati cinema. There are very, very, very few films, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that I can barely count on my fingers that actually um that are out there, that are commercially also viable. But you've managed to take that risk, Abhishek. Why do you think such films are not given that due appreciation, and constantly it's always one type of film that has often been emulated? And I know this whole copy paste structure has often been a bit of a difficult thing when it comes to filmmaking, but why is it that until now, we've not seen films of this nature and stature made in commercial Gujarati cinema?
I don't agree to this. I think on and off, the industry is right now evolving at such a pace that in last 12 years, 10 years, whatever I've seen, there are
Right,
so many attempts, so many different kind of attempts. Like uh, Vash for me has been a big blow on the face of the audience who
right.
say that Gujarati films are only comedy. Uh, a film that Yash was part of, Jagat,
Hmm.
people couldn't discover that film. But you look at the film and their craft, it's also Hellaro for that matter. So we have been offering a lot of different kind of stories. But what comes across at the surface is that Gujarati films are only comedy. comedy. Yes, but I think every other popular cinema is like that. Not only India. You go to Europe, you make a French film, for example, right? A French film which has got a slice of a life, little light-hearted and funny, is accepted more than a little dark or intense film. That's how the civilization is. So we cannot blame Gujarati audiences per se or Gujarati filmmakers.
Sure.
Attempts have been made. A lot of people are doing a lot of good stuff. I mean, there are filmmakers who have just turned 20 and they're making films. Look at what idea and what kind of stories would they bring on the table.
Yeah.
So I totally disagree to the fact that Gujarati cinema has not been experimenting. It's just that we probably find it difficult to discover them. And there will be a time when they will also get easily discovered.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I think, Abhishek, you have been the pioneer of that change as well. And credits definitely do go to you, I think, to a major extent as well for doing that. And I remember watching Bey Yaar like back in 2014, and I still listen to Rakkar Rakkar. It's such a great song. And I just loved how really you brought that sense of refreshing change. But I think going forward, like you also rightly said, there have been really, really good successful films which have experimented, like you mentioned, Vash. I think you did a film, Yash, called Rado, if I remember correctly as well, which was
Mm.
again a political thriller, a very great film as well. The fact that we've also had like Lalo as well recently, which has really broken the floodgates for many, many reasons. So there is a very good positive shift that is happening, and let's focus a bit on that as well. I think for you as creators going forward, um, what are you hoping to now do as artists or hope to see as well in terms of the industry shift as well? Abhishek, we'll begin with you, then I'll go to Yash and then Deeksha.
Um, so I mean, before I answer your question, like how we mentioned that uh, God has been very kind. I mean, I've been uh, told that I've been part of the pioneering steps into Gujarati cinema. But for these two other people in the chat window right now, I think whenever the history of Gujarati cinema will be written 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, 40 years down the line, for Yash, I think in the mosaic of 10 best films that have explored or have evolved Gujarati cinema, out of 10, I'm sure minimum 6 or 7 films are the ones which are going to feature him, right? And so we are making history for the future. When it comes to films where actors have poured their craft and you know they have represented Gujarati cinema and Gujarati scripts, and they have taken the leap and the risk, is when Diksha will be featuring in that. So there are chapters to this history that we're talking about. So it's not only Abhishek, right? When we talk about filmmakers, we're talking about actors, we're talking about directors, we're talking about producers. There is so much happening. If you look at it from a very objective point of view, 10 years in the timeline of history is nothing. Like even 100 years is, right? So when we could do so much in just 10 years as an industry, imagine what we would be doing. How are we going to place ourselves in the 100 years? So this was about that. And then about your question, where do we see Gujarati cinema? I think why I started with that is to seep into this answer. Where I see Gujarati cinema is it is evolving every year, year on year, and it is bringing a lot of credibility nationwide. Had Hellaro not got the Golden Lotus, probably people wouldn't have looked at Gujarati cinema. Had Vash not been remade in Hindi, people wouldn't have known that there is this kind of genre being explored in Gujarati cinema. Had Lalo not crossed 150 crores, people wouldn't have even recognized Gujarati cinema for its box office. So I think with every year we are creating one milestone, which is expanding our horizon and changing the perception of the people across the globe that Rahul Desai, who's so picky about doing reviews, and you know that, Anuj, writes a review about Maaran. Like, why would he do that? Chalchitra is a very popular page, right, of about films. Why would they write about Gujarati cinema and Maaran? Everyone out there is eyeing at Gujarati cinema. So this is what we need to reinstate, establish, and keep on pushing that boundary, not be complacent, and do not underestimate the audience. Push this. Maybe each attempt will not fetch that much amount of box office success, but not box office success is not for me not a parameter of success.
Yeah, true.
For me, pushing the boundary is the parameter of the success. If today, so and simple analogy is that KV Ritesh didn't earn great amount of money, but what followed with my films or other films, it created a big path for a lot of films. In the same way, if Maran can put one dent and then the others can come and penetrate, superb, our job is done. Now that success is mine. So, like Lalo's maker Ankit Shakya says that this 100 crore is not my 100 crore.
Yeah,
This is 100 crore of the 10 years of the industry. And we
right.
all take credit of it. I have my part in 100 crores of Lalo. Everyone has got their part in 100 crores of Lalo. So this is what we are doing, and this is what we are going. This is where we are going ahead.
You know, honestly, that response was so solid. I feel like with Deeksha and Yash, I've got another question actually, which is just literally popped up. But
Yes.
that was solid.
Yeah, thank
Honestly,
you.
Abhishek, that was fantastic. And I think this will make a
True.
great quote for the article. Right. So Yash and Deeksha, coming to you very quickly, that I think, you know, as I mentioned in my introduction of this interview, that I feel like stories to do with manipulation, you know, trauma and going through very harsh, horrible things in life seems to be resonating a lot with audiences, right? Like, I mean, Joa Jaye to we've got like shows like Lock Up, like Traitors, for example, that are extremely popular. I mentioned Obsession earlier. Joe, obviously, big pop culture reference bani gyu છે, you know, society ma. It feels like, especially today's generation, unfortunately, because of social media and the advent of that, have kind of faced these things a lot more than perhaps us three growing up, right? So I would love to know કે આજી બધા subjects છે manipulation અને જે ફિલ્મમાં જે દર્શાય છે, what is it that really kind of resonates with the youth on, and how do you think as films like Modern can really help to bring more conversations to light and also maybe offer an alternative solution also? Can it actually give a solution also? That's also a good question. But Yash, if you'd like to go first, and then Diksha will come to you.
So મને હંમેશા લાગ્યું છે કે ફિલ્મ કે થિયેટર એ ઇટ્સ ફાઇન ઇફ આઈ એમ ટોકિંગ ઇન ગુજરાતી, રાઈટ? સો ફિલ્મ કે થિયેટર એ સમાજનું દર્પણ છે. અને જેમ કે મારણનો થોટ, કે મારણનો થોટ શરૂઆત એવી રીતે થઈ હતી કે અભિષેક સર મુંબઈથી અમદાવાદ આવતા હતા અને હી સો કપલ ફાઇટિંગ, એટલે એક માણસ એની વાઈફને મારતો હતો ઓન ધ સ્ટ્રીટ. અને અભિષેક સરથી એ સહન ના થયું તો એમણે એક અવાજ કર્યો કે ભાઈ શું છે આ? અને પેલી લેડીએ જવાબ આપ્યો, પેલો તો ફર્યો જ નહીં માણસ તો, અને પેલી લેડીએ જવાબ આપ્યો કે ભાઈ વો મેરા મરદ હે, આપ જાઓ સાહેબ, કોઈ બાત નહીં. સો આ ઇન્સિડન્ટે અમારા બધાના મગજમાં એક સવાલ ઉભો કરી દીધો કે યાર આને કંઈ બાંધેલી નથી, આને પૂરી નથી રાખેલી આ સ્ત્રીને, તેમ છતાં આનું માઇન્ડસેટ એવું તો કેવું કરી નાખ્યું છે કે આવો આવો માર મારવા છતાં જે માણસ એને મારી રહ્યો છે રસ્તા વચ્ચે, એ માણસ બીજું શું શું કરતો હશે થ્રુ આઉટ હર લાઈફ, તેમ છતાં એ વ્યક્તિ એના હસબન્ડનો પક્ષ લઈ રહી છે. એવું તો કેવું મેનિપ્યુલેશન હશે? એવું તો કઈ રીતે એને એને સાયકોલોજીકલી બાંધી રાખી હશે એને? સો આ સવાલનો જવાબ અમારી પાસે કોઈ પાસે નથી. અમને કોઈને આની પાસે આનો શું જવાબ હોઈ શકે? આને 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 રોકવું કઈ રીતે? આપણે એવી વસ્તીને લિબરેટ કઈ રીતે કરવી કે યાર આ એકલો ઓપ્શન નથી તમારો, ભલે તમને એવું ફીલ કરાવતો હોય કે ઇઝ ધ ઓનલી ઓપ્શન અવેલેબલ ફોર યુ. એવું નથી. તમારી એક સરસ લાઈફ છે આગળ, તમારી એક સરસ દુનિયા છે, તમારી એક સપનાની દુનિયા છે જેને તમે સાકાર કરી શકો છો. તો આનો જવાબ તો છે નહીં, આનું સોલ્યુશન પણ અમારી પાસે છે નહીં, પણ અમારી પાસે એક મીડિયમ છે ફિલ્મ, કે જેના થકી આ જે સવાલ અમારા મગજમાં થયો છે એ અમે આખી સોસાયટીના મગજમાં કરી શકીએ આ સવાલ ઊભો. અને એક વખત જો આ સવાલ ઊભો થશે, એક વખત જો આ વાત ડિસ્કસ થતી થશે, તો આપણે નજીકના સમયમાં એના રિઝોલ્યુશન તરફ કે એના એના સોલ્યુશન તરફ કે એના એના નિરાકરણ તરફ આગળ વધીશું. જો આ વાત જ નહીં થાય, જો આપણે આપણી રિયાલિટીને એસ્કેપ જ કરતા રહીશું, તો પછી આઈ ડોન્ટ થિંક કે ખાલી આ જગ્યાએ પણ કોઈ પણ જગ્યાએ બદલાવ આવવાનો છે. તો આ એક મીડિયમ છે અમારી પાસે, જે અમારી એક્સપર્ટીઝ છે, એના થકી અમે એક આ સવાલ સમાજમાં મૂકીએ છીએ. જેમ જગતની અભિષેક સરે વાત કરી, તો જગતમાં પણ ઇન ધી એન્ડ વી વર ટોકિંગ અબાઉટ ચાઇલ્ડ અબ્યુઝ. સો ચાઇલ્ડ અબ્યુઝ એ બહુ મોટો કિસ્સો છે, બહુ મોટી ઘટના છે. અમે ફિલ્મ બનાવતી વખતે, રિસર્ચ કરતી વખતે અમારા ધ્યાનમાં પડ્યું કે ઓલમોસ્ટ દર ત્રીજા ઘરની વાર્તા છે. અને તેમ છતાં કોઈ આના વિશે વાત નથી કરી રહ્યું. હજી પણ આને ટેબુ ગણવામાં આવે છે. કેમ આના વિશે વાત નથી થતી? કેમ આપણે આના વિશે એવી સમજ નથી આપતા કે આ આટલી આટલી વસ્તુઓ આપણે રેડ ફ્લેગ હોઈ શકે છે, આપણી એક બાઉન્ડ્રી હોઈ શકે છે, એક બાળક તરીકે પણ તમારી એક પેરીફેરી હોઈ શકે છે જે કોઈ એન્ટર નહીં કરી શકે તમારી પરમિશન વગર. કેમ આપણે આ વસ્તુ પર ક્યારે વાત નથી કરતા? તો જગત વખતે બી અમને આ જ વસ્તુ થઈ હતી કે યાર આ વસ્તુ પર ક્યારે વાત નથી થતી. પણ જ્યારે અમને ખાસ કરીને મોટી એજ ગ્રુપમાં અબાઉ 40-45 ના લોકોએ અમને ખાસ કીધેલું કે જ્યારે અમે આ મોટા પડદે આ વાત જોઈને, ત્યારે અમને એવું ફીલ થયું કે ના, આ વસ્તુ વિશે વાત થઈ શકે છે. જો આના ઉપર ફિલ્મ બની શકતી હોય તો આપણે ઘરમાં તો વાત કરી જ શકીએ છીએ. હું મારા બાળકને સમજાઈ શકું છું કે મારણ જોયા પછી હું મારી દીકરીને સમજાઈ શકું છું. હું આ વિશે ખુલીને વાત કરી શકું છું. તો આ ફિલ્મ થકી છે ને આટલો બદલાવ તો આવી શકે છે. અને એક રિસ્પોન્સિબલ મેકર તરીકે, એક રિસ્પોન્સિબલ એક્ટર તરીકે ક્યાંક ને ક્યાંક આપણી એટલી તો ફરજ છે કે આપણા સવાલોને આપણે જે કોઈ પણ રીતે સમાજમાં મૂકી શકતા હોઈએ, અને જો આ એક સાથે ચળવળ ચાલુ થઈ શકતી હોય તો વાય નોટ.
Oh, it's beautiful. That very, very lovely answer. But Diksha, I would like to get your insights as well, actually, from uh the female lens as well. Like you mentioned earlier, it'll be nice to get your insights as well on this.
So there's a character in the film called Purva. Tarjini plays my sister, Purva.
Yes, yes.
And I'll just say that she represents the youth. She and her friend Isabel,
Yeah.
both of them, right? So, like, the mother is really conscious about this entire situation, whereas Purva has a very amazing comeback that she gives to Ratan, right? Um, in that one scene. So that just kind of shows how different the youth is of today and how courageous they are and how intelligent they are, right? So, so yeah, I kind of feel that the youth is definitely going to resonate with Purva and her friends, and her journey and the way she is looking at things, because that's, I feel, the right way to look at things. And they're going to question the mother, therefore the society as well. That's the Generation Z for you, right? So this is how I also felt while watching the film. I felt like there's this fresh energy that's coming through Purva, and then there's another stuck energy which is Birva, and then there is this third very heavy energy that's bringing all the shame and all the stigma. That's the mother and the society. So
Yeah, no, beautifully said. And I think it's really wonderful that honestly this film really does bring out that conversation. But it's been such a pleasure to have Deeksha, Yash, and Abhishek as well join this amazing, amazing roundtable, because I think Maaran is such a film that I think even in the coming years, we're gonna also pick up on things which, we might not have seen now. And I think this is the power of such movies. In fact, I also wanted to mention Shuhad Goswami here as well. I thought Shuhad Goswami was phenomenal in the film as well. And
yeah.
I want to give a special mention to him. And Abhishek, we spoke about the technical aspects, and I love the shadow play as well that you had in that. At times it reminded me of like You know, like I remember watching The Diplomat recently, John Abraham's film, and you know, when Sadia Khatib is kidnapped, there's certain plays of the shadow, and every time I see shadow plays, it always reminds me of Guru Dutt, because that's like, you know, that's like always like the tent pole example of shadow plays. And I really like the way you used that and the way you played with that aspect. So very big well done to you as well on the technical aspects for
Thank,
scoring so big.
thank you, Anuj.
So big
So
thank
can I
you.
just say one thing
Please.
before we leave? I just want to add to what you just said. I feel that women in cinema, they're usually portrayed as just victims, and there's just one shade that is given to them, that of this victim who's having to bear everything, and I feel that why this film is interesting is because there's different kinds of women in Maran, and also um, there's no flawlessness in women here. They're all flawed. So that's the most beautiful thing. Birwa is not a flawless pavitra stree. She has her own flaws. She has her own complexities. તો આવું કંઈક જે બતાવવામાં આવ્યું છે ને, I feel it makes her human, and this is what I love about the film. એટલે એવું નહીં કે મારી છે એટલા માટે નથી કહી રહી, but genuinely I felt so happy while doing this character, કારણ કે મને લાગ્યું, yes, it's a human
Mm.
being. It's not a perfect woman જેની સાથે આ થઈ રહ્યું છે. It's not like, so there are complexities in all of us, and which is why I feel this is that bold film.
Yeah. No, you're right. Absolutely, you're right. And again, it's very timely because we are seeing more grey roles explored now. But look, honestly, I could go on forever with Modern because it is such a film and the nature of the film is as such. But look, National Film Award, another really huge, huge feather to Gujarati cinema's cap. And I'm so, so proud of this one. And I think even as years go by, we're going to really look back. And like you mentioned, history is definitely in the writing, Abhishek. So thank you so much for all of you for being such a big part of that. And big congratulations on Modern. Thank you so much for joining me on Filme Shilmy. It's been
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.